Okay, it is day 485 off the grid, and it's a day after the first time I've run the generator for battery charging in, well, not just April, but quite a long time in March too, so 6 weeks or so. But I ran the generator last night and it showed up something lacking in that the 24 volt bank in the A shed, which powers the fridge and the freezer, doesn't have enough of a grunty battery charger on it to really make the most of the generator running to top up those batteries. The charger I've got on it at the moment only pushes 7 amps. Now, I've bought this battery charger from Trade Me quite a few months ago actually, and it's been sitting in our dining room in the box that it came in. I hadn't even unpacked it. Hadn't even unpacked it until now. So I thought the wisest thing to do today was to basically install this so that I can use this to charge the freezer bank. Now it's 24 volts 10 amps, and I was initially going to use it to replace the 7 amp one and move that over to the B shed, but I've decided now I'm going to leave the 7 amp one there, put this one as well, and run them in tandem so that I'm getting 17 amps of charge when these chargers are operating with the generator. I think that's a far better idea. So I've already connected it up to some test batteries in the shed just to check that it actually works, and yeah, it works fine. So I've opened it up to see what's exactly inside it. I wasn't sure whether it was an iron core unit or a switch mode or whatever, and clearly it's a switch mode upon looking at it. There's the bridge rectifier where the mains comes in. There's a couple of high voltage filter capacitors. There's a rather small transformers, you know, so it's obviously switch mode for 10 amps. There's a couple of big choppers. Could be MOSFETs, there could be insulated gate bipolar transistors. Another little device there, and a couple of these daughter board kind of control boards, quite crazy. Got this one here, and then this one here. Now, yeah, it's an intelligent battery charger. It supposedly does 3-stage charging and whatnot, but it does seem frightfully complicated, you know. Never mind. Looks like the boards are all conformally coated and stuff to keep out the moisture and stuff like that, which is good. It's got these super overkill battery terminals. These are the kind of terminals you'd have on an inverter, like a 12 volt inverter, maybe 1000 watt, even 2000 watt inverter, where you're expecting to see 100 amps or so, or more even. Seems to me a bit overkill for 10 amps, but it's what it's got, and they'll do fine. Must have been what the manufacturer had in stock a lot of when they built this thing. Or maybe they just wanted to go for that chunky look. Or maybe it's just to sort of encourage you to use really heavy cables from this to the battery, which would make sense, but I'm probably not going to. I'll probably just use cables that are, you know, rated to handle sensibly, easily handle 10 amps, maybe 20 amps sort of type stuff. I'm not going to use 100 amp cables just to supply 10 amps from a battery charger. So I was figuring out how to mount it, and the quick and dirtiest way to mount it, which I'll probably go for, is with the case off. I can see where there's these holes here which formerly took these bolts here that would have had feet which were not supplied. I was supplied with the bolts, but I wasn't supplied with the feet. Now I figure if I just poke a screw back this way while the case is open, I can just screw it to the wall. A couple of screws there, and that's a done burger. Can't get to these holes because the fan's in the way of that one and the circuit board's in the way of that one. That also means you wouldn't be able to screw these into any real depth, because you'd end up fouling something inside the case, which is one of the reasons why I want to open it up to see how things were. But there we go. It's a battery charger. Now the ironic thing is, although today started out really overcast and has been overcast all day up until a few minutes ago, in fact just when I started filming this video, look, go there, now the sun's back. And you know, I was anticipating running the generator tonight, for one thing to test out this new battery charger, and for another thing to make sure the fridge batteries are nicely topped up, because I can't really steal any charge from the B shed now, because I've already caned that, taxed that massively over the last sort of 24 hours. But this makes me wonder. Although we'll have to see how things are at the end of the day. Maybe I might run the generator, but just for an hour or something. We shall see. But I shouldn't really be working hard out on solar stuff today, because of course the Samhain is tomorrow and we're doing our recording, but I have taken care to already prepare the recording equipment that's ready to go in the lounge for a test recording this evening, so that's all good. So we're sorted there. I pulled a pumpkin out, not from this year, from last year, that we had sitting in our old oven that we don't use for about a year, until it started showing signs of going rotten a month or two ago, and I sort of chopped it up and put it in the freezer. I pulled that out of the freezer today, and we'll have that tonight on the Samhain Eve. Pumpkins, how appropriate, eh, for a soup or something. Anyhow, I should go and see if I can find a place for this in my rather packed little power room, and screw it on the wall, and as long as I leave enough space I can put the case back on with its 8 screws, which will make it a real prick if I ever have to take this off the wall, but you know, hopefully shouldn't have to. So there we go. More to follow, I reckon. And here we are, the charger's now installed on the wall in the A shed. I've just made up this lead here, it runs down to here. I've added this new breaker, which these basically function as isolators, because the chargers themselves have got their own electronic protection against overloads, but these are isolators, and I guess they're last ditch things, and as such when I get the chance I will replace them with circuit breakers of more suitable rating, but for now they'll do just fine. So the positive comes through this breaker and joins the bus there to that red wire, which ultimately comes up to here to feed into the battery bank. The negative joins this black wire here. Yeah, you could argue that with both chargers feeding together at this point and this point here, the voltage drop between here and the actual batteries could be enough to cause the chargers to switch at the wrong times, and that may be true, and it probably wouldn't be a tolerable situation if these chargers were intended to fully top off these batteries all the time. But since I'm only really relying on these chargers to bulk charge the batteries during times when the sun hasn't charged them, for me that's not really an issue. So there we go, nothing's getting warm. So you can see the meter says 10 amps. How truthful is that meter? A trusty old clamp meter here. Well, it's not so trusty, but it's trusty enough. It's accurate enough, it sometimes just doesn't turn on. 9.5, 9.6, so that's good enough for us. So now, when this new ultra intelligent battery charger is operating, and the Invacare charger mobility scooter charger is operating, we'll be pushing just over 17 amps, or around 17 amps actually, because that does about 7.5, but it's not quite doing 10, into the freezer batteries down here, which will be far better. In fact, you can see at the moment the voltage is already hit just about 26, and it hasn't been there anywhere near there for the last couple of days. I'm just, of course, running this from an inverter at the moment as a test from the day circuit, the 12 volt bank, which isn't, of course, what I intend to do with it. It's just a test. I don't have the generator running now, and I guess I'll still have to run the generator, test this to see if it plays nicely with the generator. So I guess that's a good excuse to put the generator on tonight for all time, even though there has been a bit of sun, although we're kind of back to a bit murky now. I mean, there is blue sky up there, but you know, we're getting a bit of haze, so we're not getting the best. Certainly not the best when the batteries really need topping up. So yeah, a short run in the Genie tonight, I think. I better cut this short because I've got to go and pick up the car. We've just had the warrant done on the Beamer, and hopefully by the time I get down to the garage, Steve will have replaced one of the bearings in the back wheel, which was kind of making a bit of a whine, but that's assuming he's managed to get one in today. It might not happen till tomorrow, but that's alright. We've got our plans sorted for the Samhain. So that's pretty much it really. Basically literally a 1 hour project just to bring this charger into here, and now it's into here. Of course it will just be plugged into this board here because this is a generator feed when the generator's on. And at some point I'll go and do the big cable tidy up. Once I'm happy, of course, you know, once I'm happy that everything's going as it should, you know. Daffy said to me this morning, it's just about a full-time job, this solar power. Well, yeah, it does take its time, but it's a hobby and it's something I enjoy. Obviously if we just were doing it because we want to save money, or we had to be off the grid because we were in a situation where there was no grid, I mean, we were interested in solar power, we'd just get some tidy commercial system chucked in and hope for the best. But you know, I'm into it, so there we go. Brings me more joy mucking around with this stuff than the music industry does nowadays, I've got to say. Not so many dicks out there in the solar scene. Yeah. Anyway, I better hustle and get down and pick up this car, probably get some more petrol for the Jenny, and post a couple of packages off, and that is day 485 off the grid.